Danny Stutsman off to the National Football League. What does it mean? Plus, immediate help on the way out of the transfer portal and more.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, your team every single day. He, ladies and gentlemen, is John Williams. Follow him on social media at John9Williams. I'm Josh Elmer. Follow me on Twitter at JoshOnRef. And of course, today's episode proudly brought to us by FanDuel Sportsbook. Visit them online, fanduel.com/lockedon, where you can enjoy this NFL season in style. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. Thank you for joining us on Locked On Sooners, your team every single day. Big news in the world of Oklahoma football as we have the domino that probably was expected, but now you get the announcement, Danny Stutsman headed to the National Football League. John, just your immediate reaction to the anchor of this Oklahoma defense making his announcement.
Yeah, so according to the report from SoonerScoop and Carey Murdoch, Danny Stutsman informed Brent Venables and the coaching staff that that's what he's doing. I guess it comes out as a bit of a surprise, considering it seemed like the trend was that he was coming back. It's a bit of a shock to me. I mean, he's a good player that's got at least a top 100 draft grade, in my opinion. I'd be surprised if he fell outside of the top 100, but athletic testing will go a long way to determining that. I don't think he's a first rounder, simply just because it's hard to find off-ball linebackers that go in the first round. You have to be legit special, and you have to be able to rush off the edge. That's just key. Now, Stutsman can rush off the edge, 6 sacks over the last 2 seasons. It's just not how you're going to deploy him. But for the Oklahoma Sooners, I mean, this really fast tracks their young linebacker core and says, hey, you've got to get ready. This offseason is going to be crucial for you. And if you're not ready to go by the time the SEC rolls around, we're going to be in trouble. Now, guys like Kip Lewis, Jaren Kanak, Kobe McKenzie got a lot of valuable playing time this season, a lot of growing pains. Jaren Kanak, he's got some room to grow in a lot of ways, from a recognition standpoint to just an understanding of what the defense is designed to do, play in and play out. Kip Lewis has got to get bigger. He was really good in short spurts in the first half of the season, but when he started getting more and more playing time, I think his size became a little bit overexposed. And then Kobe McKenzie, it's just I think for him, it's just playing time. When he was out there, he was pretty good. Now he's got to get better in coverage, which I think all the linebackers have to get better in coverage. Generally, that's a weakness if you're a linebacker. So they got to continue to get better. And I think they've got a nice young linebacker core that came in the 2023 signing class as well, in Samuel Omasigo and Lewis Carter and Phil Picciotti, that they can build upon. It's just, you would have liked to have Stutsman going into your first season in the SEC, just to provide some stability for your defense as it continues to improve, which it made drastic leaps this season in almost every major defensive category. You would have liked to have as much veteran leadership as you could possibly have when you get ready to play Josh Heupel and the Tennessee Volunteers, that first SEC game in Norman next year.
Yeah, it's obviously an expected, or at least an educated expectation that Danny Stutsman would make the decision to go to the NFL and forego that next season of eligibility. But it's a big time blow for Oklahoma. You're talking about the anchor of this defense the last couple of seasons. I'm going to say that he's a back-to-back triple-digit tackler. He finishes with 99 this season for Oklahoma. I'll round up and give him the uno there to get to the even century mark, plus his decision not to play in the Alamo Bowl. Had a $124 the season before that. So a world of production of Danny Stutsman that you're replacing. The leadership component, that's probably something that, that's tougher to quantify for Oklahoma. And maybe you just look at some of the moments when he was out that it wasn't necessarily perfect coming down the home stretch. But Danny Stutsman was a warrior for this Oklahoma team the last couple of seasons. And its best player defensively, though Billy Bowman might have something to say about that. So it's fortunately for Oklahoma, it comes at a position of wealth. I do think that now it ratchets up the lens, the magnifying glass that we'll be watching Jaren Kanak and Kip Lewis and Kobe McKenzie in this Alamo Bowl. How well they play is going to help, again, shape our expectations and excitement for those guys heading into 2024. Already think it's pretty high, but is one of those guys going to go author and deliver a starring role for Oklahoma in this bowl game? That would be a pleasant welcome sight with obviously the news that Stutsman is moving on. The other questions I would have coming out of this is, okay, does that have any impact whatsoever on a Billy Bowman decision? Does that, in your opinion, make that Billy Bowman decision more important for Oklahoma? And then does it open the door for Oklahoma to say, okay, now it's time to think more seriously about a veteran linebacker out of the transfer portal?
Let me start with that part right there. I do think they got to look at somebody like a Connor Neer type, somebody that's got some experience, that's played a lot of snaps, that can come in and be the leader for this linebacker room, or at least be a steadying hand for it and help them go through film, game prep, things like that. Now you've got a good kind of off-field assistant in James Skalski, who's going to be really, really important to this room as they move forward. Assuming Ted Roof is back, you've got an experienced coach as well, coaching your linebackers. And then Brent Venables. I mean, Brent Venables has been huge. We see the turnaround from Danny Stutsman. Took him from a guy that was a jokester, kind of the class clown of the program, and turned him into an All-American for CBS Sports. So I think it's going to be okay if you go into it and you say, nope, we're going with Kip, Jaren, Kobe, Sam, Lewis, and Phil. We're going with those 6, and that's our linebacker core going into 2024. I'm cool with it. Let's roll, let's learn, let's grow, let's go through the growing pains a little bit. But I just like the diversity that they have. You have guys that are like straight uber athletes in Sam Omasigo and Jaren Kanak, and then guys like Phil Picciotti and Kobe McKenzie are just straight dudes. They just got a ton of size to them. And then you look at Lewis Carter, and Brent Venables raved about him in the offseason, just called him just a football player, just one of the best football players that they have on the team. So I think with what you've got in those 6, and then not including what you're bringing in the signing class, although not necessarily as impressive as the 2023 class as far as stars are concerned, you've got a lot to build on. But yeah, it would make sense to have a transfer portal addition just to give you that solid floor, somebody that's played a lot of snaps, they could at least be a part of that linebacker rotation. On Billy Bowman real quick, I don't know. I don't know if the decision makes it maybe it makes it easier for him to go, like, well, Danny's going, I can go, but maybe it makes it a little bit more hard for him. Like, oh, Danny's gone, I should stick around one more year. I don't know. I don't know if Billy's decision will have anything to do with Danny's decision, but it definitely makes it more important for Billy to come back to help solidify this defense next year.
And being really glass half full here, could this help you with one final name or two in this 2024 signing class that realizes, okay, well, now there's that little extra bit of opportunity early at Oklahoma? Like you said, I mean, I think with what you have already in tow at OU, and in particular, the Kip Lewises, the Jaren Kanaks, the Kobe McKenzies of the world, I think you feel pretty good about where you're at linebacker going into next season. And obviously Picciotti and on, a bunch of young backers. Omasigo we could talk about. We'll see about Anesta in this class. And again, is there one other name or two that might join Nesta now that this decision has been made? We'll see. I mean, this is just the nature of the business at a place like Oklahoma. I, generally speaking, try not to get too high and mighty about it was the right decision or the wrong decision when it comes to somebody making the move to go to the National Football League. It's tough for me to sit here and say that Danny Stutsman comes back and has a magical year in the SEC, that he doesn't work his way into the first round. But likewise, it's equally hard for me to say that he goes and has another pretty solid season and doesn't kind of just sit where he's at right now, which is a fringe first round guy, probably a second round guy, and worst case scenario, a third round guy. So again, I think for Danny Stutsman, if he feels the time is right, then probably that means he's made the right decision for himself. the Oklahoma Sooners getting busy already, as we know, out of the transfer portal. We've got an offensive lineman to tell you about next right here on Locked On Sooners. Right now, new customers, you can get $150 in bonus bets. That's with any winning $5 money line bet with FanDuel Sportsbook. So as the weather's chilling out on us, the NFL offers their red hot with FanDuel Sportsbook. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time than right now, hot and heavy end of the NFL season, to get in on the action. $150 if your money line bet wins. That's just a $5 money line bet. The app, by the way, super easy to use. Wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/locked on and kick off this end of the NFL season in style. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. Well, Oklahoma, we knew, John, would probably need to supplement itself up front along the offensive line. If you and I sat here, or anybody on any Oklahoma podcast, radio station, website, whatever, put together your top positional needs out of the transfer portal, I'm not saying that it's just lock it up and throw away the key for every single individual, but I'm here to tell you that probably number one or number two on the list, and generally speaking, yes, probably tops of the list, would be offensive line as the immediate position where Oklahoma needed the biggest infusion of an immediate talent replenishment. And so Oklahoma, they have gotten busy out of the transfer portal. They have added a graduate transfer, Spencer Brown, out of Michigan State. What do you make of the move for the Sooners?
Yeah, I like the move. I think it's an experienced dude that can come in and start right away for you at right tackle. You know, he's got 25 starts under his belt over the last 3 seasons, played more than 1,400 snaps, been a part of a team that loved to run the football. And, the Spartans, they played big time football up there in the Big Ten. So have they been a great team? No, but they've been good at times over the last few years, and he's been a part of that. Again, it gives you somebody with a lot of experience, similar to the Walter Rouse move. You know, the Walter Rouse thing, I mean, he was a highly coveted player out of the portal, but you look at those Stanford teams, you're like, they weren't that great. But he was a really, really good player for the Sooners this past year, arguably their best offensive lineman. And so you add a guy like Spencer Brown, which to me is one of the better offensive tackle names in football. Just, I don't know why. Spencer Brown is just a great football name. But you get a dude that has played a lot of ball, played against some high-level competition, and obviously gets the stamp of approval from Bill Bedenbaugh, who's done a really good job over the last few years adding portal offensive linemen, whether it's Chris Murray, Wanya Morris, Tyler Guyton, Walter Rouse, McKay Matire, and now Spencer Brown gets an opportunity to go be that next guy that'll probably end up getting a draftable grade at some point after his time with the Sooners is finished.
Well, now he gets to match himself up against the biggest, the meanest, and the nastiest. And that's no slight to the Big Ten, where obviously he sees a lot of talented football players, but the reputation of playing in the trenches in the SEC as a one-year standalone, if it goes great, that could be, seriously impactful for Spencer Brown and his NFL draft status. Oklahoma, John, they have to really like the fact that he's been versatile. He's played both tackle positions. Started 12 games at left tackle for the Spartans in 2022, and then 9 games this past season at right tackle, 2 more at left tackle this season for Michigan State. So he's, as you pointed out, he's played a lot of football, started 25 different games, but he's also played both left and right tackle, which for Oklahoma and Bill Bedenbaugh, Bedenbaugh's kind of historic trademark is, I'm not afraid to tinker around a little bit, especially early in a season, and really even to the middle and late portions of the season, to find the right combination and to find the right position for somebody. So knowing that you've got an offensive tackle coming aboard in Brown that has played both left and right, I'm sure is something that Oklahoma was looking for.
Yeah, I'm sure it is, but I think in my mind, he's going to be your right tackle because he just got so much experience there. You know, yes, he played a couple games at left tackle, but to me, he's like your plug and play right tackle. You don't got to worry about it now. I think the same was true for Walter Rouse. You knew when Walter Rouse was coming over, he had played so much at left tackle, he was coming to play left tackle. And now this allows you to have a little bit of experience. You got Caden Green on the left side, Jacob Sexton probably going to line up at left tackle next to Green. And then whatever you do at right guard, you've got a very experienced player to slot next to him at right tackle, whether it's a true freshman that comes in and earns a job, or you got a guy on the roster already that like a Jake Taylor, or you add a portal guy, the Texas A&M freshman All-American put himself in the portal today on Wednesday. So maybe you make the move for that too. And then you've got a guy like Troy Everett, Josh Bates that likely compete for that starting center role, presuming Andrew Rame is off to the NFL, which, I mean, he's already off in California training. So that's very likely, it seems. But I like the addition just because you get an experienced guy in a room where there's not a lot of experience, with Guyton presumably leaving, with Walter Rouse leaving, McCabe Mathire's gone out of eligibility, and then assuming Rame goes as well. You need somebody with a lot of experience in that room.
I'll be curious to hear what you think about this. Did Oklahoma find one of its starting offensive linemen just now for next season in Spencer Brown? I will take the cop-out response of, I need to see the rest of the moves that happen for Oklahoma. And having gone through a couple of these cycles now out of the transfer portal, John, and just watching what happens elsewhere in the country, I think it's easy early in this portal cycle to fall in love with the idea that, okay, here's Spencer Brown. He started 25 college games, and he's Oklahoma's starting right tackle. Well, let's see what happens elsewhere, right? Let's see what happens throughout spring football and throughout fall camp, because Oklahoma, even with a Bird leaving, even with injuries that maybe have slowed things down a little bit for a Sexton or a Taylor, I do think Oklahoma's got some options in-house that it likes a lot, right? That are going to be just that little bit older, a little bit years wiser. Probably he's got a pretty good chance to be a rotational piece. And obviously with his 25 career starts, it's easy to see a scenario where Spencer Brown winds up as Oklahoma's starting right tackle. I guess I'm saying I will wait and see, because Oklahoma's got a number of other portal targets, and I don't think that they're done pulling in an offensive tackle or maybe a couple of offensive tackles out of the portal. But I do think this is a nice start for Oklahoma along its offensive line out of the portal.
It is a nice start, and we know they're not going to be done. They're going to go after several more players. We'll talk about a few other portal targets here coming up after the break on Locked On Sooners.
Your best home for daily fantasy sports? Well, that's Prize Picks. Head on over today. Use our code LOCKEDONCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege, where again, they make daily fantasy sports easy. Basketball season's here, and that means while the NFL season is still chugging along, they've got their combo projections across football and basketball from their Specials League. It's a league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. For example, LeBron James plus Travis Kelce at 10.5 combos of 3-pointers made plus receptions. Right now, with the way this Kansas City Chiefs offense is going, you might be thinking less than in that category. But hey, power's in the eye of the beholder, right? Prize Picks, go check them out. Again, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege to use our code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. That's Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. So not just Spencer Brown for Oklahoma out of the transfer portal. The early names on the list that I and others have been curating out there, and probably there's been an offer or two that maybe I need to add to this list, but a number of the first names for Oklahoma that toss the graphic out, and that's the easiest way to track this at times, John, is the player reports, hey, I've been offered by the University of Oklahoma, because out of the transfer portal, this thing is, I think, more difficult to get a pulse on at times than, say, the high school recruitments we see. It's easy knowing that somebody's going into the portal, but once they go into the portal, knowing who they've talked to and where they're getting legitimate offers and interest from, that part maybe we're not as privy to. But that being said, in addition to Spencer Brown, here's some other names. Geno Vandemark, another offensive lineman out of Michigan State, redshirt sophomore, 6'5", 320, the Oklahoma offer. Out of North Texas, a sophomore offensive lineman, Fabechi Weewu, 6'4", 316 pounds, and Jalen Farmer, an offensive lineman out of Florida, a redshirt frosh, 6'5", 310. So all big-bodied boys in addition to Spencer Brown. And the interesting thing about that trio of players, John, and I think that they'll I would imagine, wind up with one name out of those trio out of simply necessity. That's an attractive selling point for Oklahoma. Coach Bedenbaugh's track record, Oklahoma's track record. I like OU's chance to, and maybe they wind up with multiple or all of those names that I just mentioned for you, but probably at least one, right? And the interesting thing about that trio, every single one of those guys has multiple years of eligibility left. And in fact, Farmer's got 3 years of eligibility left.
It's kind of like the Deshaun McCullough decision. You go get a guy that's young, that has a lot of football still in front of him. You can bring him into your program and start to develop him. I think that really bodes well. It's key. You don't want to just have a guy for 1 year. Yes, you got the Spencer Brown, you got him for 1 year. But if you can get younger guys that have a lot left in the tank, I think it helps you build your program. And the other thing that's interesting is these guys all have size. You don't have to bring them in and then bulk them up like you've had to do with some of your offensive linemen from the Lincoln Riley era. No, you got guys that are ready to come in and play SEC football, because they're all well over 300 pounds already. Then you get them with Schmitty, you get them in the nutrition program at Oklahoma. And if you need to, you can add another 10 to 15 pounds to their frame because they've already got it at 6'5", 6'6". They're ready to roll. So I like what they're doing, trying to remake the offensive line a little bit, kind of bulk it up so that they're able to better handle the defensive tackles that they'll have to deal with on the interior, and some of the edge rushers that they'll have to deal with as well. So you need to find some athletic guys that are big, that can got the long arms and can reach out and punch. So I like that they're casting a wide net to add offensive line depth. You've got some intriguing pieces along the offensive line from your last several recruiting classes. You just haven't seen them on the field yet. And so add a little bit more competition and see where that can take you, because you're going to need it. You're going to need to continue to build that depth, because yes, you brought in some really, really intriguing prospects here for 2023, 2022. And then you've got some really intriguing guys coming in the 2024 cycle as well. But there's just not a lot of experience. And so if you can add guys that have played a little bit, been at the college football level, that can add some competition to the offensive line room, that's just great for business.
The other name that we've touched on before, but still out there, cornerback Des Malone out of San Diego State, 33 career games, 23 starts, 89 tackles, 4 TFLs, 1 sack, 4 picks, 12 passes defensed over the course of his career, and 1 year of eligibility remaining. Cornerback, as we've discussed, John, feels like a position that OU needs help at. The fact that we haven't seen a bunch of names elsewhere out of the defensive backfield, are you surprised? I mean, maybe again, it's the transfer portal. We take a little while to have names surface, or it sort of depends on a player to let us know that they've been offered. Is Oklahoma less active in the transfer portal right now with the defensive backs than maybe you would have expected?
Maybe a little bit. I do think they've been in on some other names at cornerback, and we're still getting, transfer announcements. It's still just a few days into the portal season. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw them pursuing some other guys. I would like to see them add a veteran corner that can come in and compete for snaps. I would like to see them add a safety, especially if Billy Bowman goes off to the NFL. But if Billy Bowman is staying for sure, then I think you're good. I think you're solid at safety, not just with Bowman, but with Bowman and Bowen and Robert Spears Jennings. And, you could potentially move a Makari Vickers over there to play some safety for you. We got Dane McCullough right now in tow. Justin Harrington's going to be back next year, presumably. And so I think you're pretty set at safety. But it wouldn't surprise me to see them add a veteran safety like a Reggie Pearson type or a Key Lawrence type that helps them just kind of continue to push the younger guys and help them, raise their game up to compete for playing time. But I think cornerback is still a spot where they need to make some moves. I mean, defensive tackle, I would love for them to make some moves there, because they need a difference maker. Now, those difference makers don't always grow on trees, but you're getting a lot of guys into the portal all of a sudden from Texas A&M that could potentially come in and be a player for you on the interior defensive line. That being said, you've got a couple difference makers coming in the 2024 cycle. So how much do you want to throw into the transfer portal bag? I don't know how much, but they could certainly use some help on the defensive line because they got to get that pass rush better. As good as the defense was, as much as it improved, pass rush is still an issue, and they got to keep getting better at that.
Yeah, and hopefully names such as David Stone, Jaden Jackson, I know they're young. Hopefully the addition of that talent to Oklahoma, striking from the interior of its defense, can start opening things up a little bit on the edges, right? Because obviously what do we hear time and time again? There's one way to pressure Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, all these guys, right? Lamar Jackson, even though he moves pretty good back there, the greatest quarterbacks, they still do not like interior pressure. That all of a sudden opens some things up for the guys on the outside to get to the quarterback, as well as you try to vacate that pocket a little bit. So hopefully just by what you've got in the signing class, you've helped yourself out quite a bit. But I would imagine as this TikToks along here over the next couple of weeks, we will start seeing, again, more defensive back offers, both corner and safety. I would expect that we will see some defensive line movement for Oklahoma, and hopefully they can enhance what they've got. But it'll be fun to follow. We'll have you covered right here on Locked On Sooners, your team every single day. From a partner, John Williams, you can follow him on Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter, at John9Williams. I'm Josh Helmer. Check me out on social media at JoshOnRef. Until next time, Boomer Sooner, everybody.